Hello everyone, today is Friday, November the 17th, 2023. I would like to remind again, for those who still have no idea about the situation in Myanmar, I suggest you turn left when you go out and head to the Myanmar Situation playlist to watch my series of videos. This will give you a general, comprehensive, and clear understanding of the situation in this country. In the 82nd episode, I repeatedly emphasized the rapidly changing situation in Myanmar, approaching the end game. In a blink of an eye, major events could occur, so everyone must keep a close eye and not miss out. Our channel will also keep up with current affairs and report the latest developments to you. Surprised or not? Before I could finish speaking, CCTV reported last night that the Ming family, the fifth major fraud family in northern Myanmar, was completely annihilated. Today, I will continue to share and follow the final outcome in northern Myanmar in three parts. Part 1. The downfall of the fifth tele-fraud family, the Ming family in Kokang. With one suicide, 3 arrests, and more heads will roll. Part 2. The past and present of the Ming family. Part 3. With time running out, surrendering is the only choice for the other 4 major families in Kokang. Part 1. The downfall of the fifth tele-fraud family, the Ming family in Kokang. With one suicide, 3 arrests, and more heads will roll. According to the latest news, the fifth major family in the Kokang region of northern Myanmar has fallen. The family leader, Ming Xuechang, is dead, and his son and daughter have been handed over to our police, having crossed the national border. First, let's watch a news video.
明真真进行公开通缉。
记者昨天从公安部了解到，中缅联合执法取得重大战果，明国平、明菊兰、明真真被成功缉拿归案，首犯明学昌畏罪自杀。
昨天，在缅甸各方的大力配合下，明国平、明菊兰、明真真3人被成功抓获并移交我公安机关，中缅联合执法取得重大战果。当日，接缅甸驻昆明总领事馆通报，缅方11月15号夜组织对明学昌抓捕，期间明学昌畏罪自杀身亡。当前，缅北涉我电信网络诈骗犯罪形势严峻，公安机关侦查发现，以明学昌为首的犯罪集团长期组织开设诈骗犯罪窝点，公开武装护诈，实施针对中国公民的电信网络诈骗犯罪活动，诈骗数额巨大，在公安机关严打高压态势下，仍不收敛不收手。继续大肆组织实施违法犯罪活动，并涉嫌故意杀人、故意伤害、非法拘禁等严重暴力犯罪，情节极其恶劣，危害极其严重。公安机关将彻查该犯罪集团全部违法犯罪事实，依法严惩。公安机关正告缅北涉诈犯罪集团，要认清形势，丢掉幻想，立即停止一切犯罪活动，停止一切侵害中国公民生命财产安全的行为，尽快释放全部中国籍电信网络诈骗犯罪嫌疑人。记者王一鸣报道。
So, who captured the Ming family? They were captured by the Kokang police. But weren't the Kokang police controlled by the Ming family? As our viewers might have seen in our Northern Myanmar Situation series, they have been disarmed by the Myanmar military government. This shows that the Kokang region is under the control of the Myanmar military government, and all 5 major families are proxies for the Myanmar military government. Around the 14th of this month, the Myanmar military government took over Laojie completely, and both the Ming and Bai families lost their military power. Ming Xuechang and his family were already wanted by the Chinese police, so the Myanmar military government had no choice but to act and hand them over to the Chinese side. Otherwise, once Laojie fell, these people would become prisoners of the Kokang Alliance Army, and it would all become the achievement of Pang Diren of the Kokang Alliance Army. So the Myanmar military government wanted to hand these people over to China as soon as possible to claim the credit for cooperating with the Chinese police. However, why didn't they cooperate earlier? Why wait until the army was at the gates? Initially, when the Chinese police asked for these people, Myanmar pushed back and asked for evidence. Recently, the Alliance Army obtained evidence of the Ming family murdering Chinese citizens and engaging in telefraud, including burying Chinese bodies alive, which everyone saw on the internet. I believe this evidence was passed on to the Chinese police. Once we had the evidence, we issued an arrest warrant, and the Myanmar military government had no choice but to comply and start handing over people for redemption. So, how did Ming Xuechang die? Some say he committed suicide during a nighttime arrest by the Kokang police. Others say he was forced to commit suicide after being captured by the Myanmar army. I personally lean towards him being silenced by the Myanmar army. Why was he silenced? Because Ming Xuechang knew too much. The Myanmar military government is the biggest protector of telefraud, and it's said that the seer even provided intelligence that every time money was successfully scammed from Chinese citizens, they took a 30% cut. How corrupt is that? In fact, just as the Alliance Army was besieging the city, China issued a warrant for the Ming family and a video urging them to surrender. 3 major events occurred in the Kokang region. First, the military power of the 5 major families was stripped. Second, the Myanmar army took over Kokang and declared a state of emergency. Third, Kokang accelerated the handover of people to the Chinese police. The Kokang police, who initially protected telefraudsters, are now scouring the streets for them to hand over to China. In the past few days, they handed over tens of thousands of people. Think about how terrifying that is, tens of thousands of people scamming Chinese citizens, scamming hundreds of billions from them annually. Who else should be eliminated if not them? What many friends may not know is that the power supply in Kokang comes from our Yunnan Power Bureau. The latest news is that there was a power line failure, and there has been a blackout since last night. Due to the ongoing conflict in northern Myanmar, it cannot be repaired until the conflict ends. How coincidental is that? With the power out in Kokang and the streets dark at night, now that most of the people have been handed over, I estimate that the final assault on the city is imminent. Let's wait and see. Let's see if my previous series of predictions were correct. Now we can be sure that the 5 major telefraud families will inevitably be annihilated. The Ming family went from slaughtering over 70 Chinese people to complete annihilation in less than a month. What about the other 4 major families? Their downfall is also near, but the question remains whether they will be handed over by the Myanmar military government or captured alive by the Alliance Army. As for escaping by helicopter, that's no longer possible. Just a few days ago, even a K-8 trainer plane was shot down, let alone a helicopter. So, they can't run away now. The only thing the other 4 major families should worry about now is whether the Myanmar military government will silence them. Those who offend our powerful Han, no matter how far, will be punished. Those who kill Chinese people, blood for blood. Part 2. The past and present of the Ming family. Talking about the anti-telefraud operation in northern Myanmar leading to the downfall of the Ming family today, let's go back to March of this year. With the relaxation of pandemic policies and post-holiday resumption of work, telefraud gangs began their busy recruitment. From then on, every day, ignorant youths from all over the country were lured by the internet, flying to the China-Myanmar border in Yunnan, trying to sneak into northern Myanmar for overnight riches. For a time, northern Myanmar became a lawless land, a paradise for criminals, an adventure playground. On one hand, there were the ignorant heading into the fire, and on the other hand, there were those extorted, beaten, trafficked, and even murdered by telefraud gangs. This area, once known as the Golden Triangle, became synonymous with lawlessness in the eyes of our people. When time and again our people were defrauded of huge amounts of wealth by telefraud gangs, and naive youths fell into their clutches, Northern Myanmar not only became a hated place in the hearts of our people but also affected national security and order. Think about the amount of effort the state has put into anti-fraud propaganda over the years to prevent people's losses, and how much inconvenience the financial industry has caused ordinary people because of tele-fraud. And you'll realize that tele-fraud has long become a cancer that must be eradicated. The turning point came in mid-August with a joint operation against tele-fraud by China, Thailand, Myanmar, and Laos convened in Chiang Mai, Thailand. Initially, many people thought this was just another exercise, but in just 3 months, they completely turned Northern Myanmar upside down. From then on, Northern Myanmar periodically handed over batches of tele-fraud members to China. Although such achievements are worth celebrating in the eyes of our people, they are far from a victory. Many people even think it's just a bargaining game. But obviously, the result we want cannot be settled by just handing over a few thousand low-level tele-fraud members. So, we saw the announcement by the WA state on September the 1st, thoroughly cleaning up fraud against Chinese citizens. But we look at the attitude and, more importantly, the results. On October the 20th, it was rumored that Ming Xuechang, the leader of the fifth major family in the Kokang region, brutally murdered more than 70 Chinese employees while secretly moving his tele-fraud park staff, even burying 4 people alive. This shocking massacre was Ming's last madness and also became the catalyst for the downfall of tele-fraud in northern Myanmar. On October the 24th, the Chinese ambassador to Myanmar met with Myanmar officials to assess the latest situation of tele-fraud. Just 3 days later, the Kokang Alliance Army emerged from the forests where they had been hiding for 14 years, and in just 3 days, they effortlessly captured the Myanmar military government and militia strongholds in Kokang, surrounding Laojie. The Kokang Alliance Army's banner was to eradicate the tele-fraud gangs, and the condition for a ceasefire was the unconditional release of all Chinese employees and their handover to China, and the tele-fraud leaders of the 4 major families to be handed over to China for legal proceedings. On November the 12th, the Wenzhou police in China publicly issued a warrant for the arrest of important leaders of the tele-fraud criminal group in the Kokang region of northern Myanmar, Ming Xuechang, Ming Guoping, Ming Julan, and Ming Zhenzhen. Until then, many friends might have wondered if such a warrant against a foreign country could really be effective. Interestingly, the day before the Alliance Army's operation, Ming Xuechang, a prominent figure in Kokang, was still attending a meeting to combat tele-fraud and even made several suggestions. However, just a few hours after the warrant was issued, on November the 13th, news broke that Ming Xuechang's family mansion had been bombed. The Kokang Alliance Army claimed they were not responsible, as Ming Xuechang had already moved to Laojie, and the so-called mansion was just an empty house. While it's still unclear who bombed Ming Xuechang's mansion, it was clearly a demonstration of the power of the arrest warrant. What happened next, yesterday, surprised the whole world. Although I had anticipated it, the speed at which it occurred was indeed unexpected. The Ming family, backed into a corner, probably never imagined that a lifetime of wrongdoing could be brought to an end by a single warrant from local Chinese police. On November the 16th, news came that 3 important leaders of the tele-fraud criminal group in northern Myanmar, Ming Guoping, Ming Julan, and Ming Zhenzhen, were captured in the Kokang region by Myanmar police and handed over to Chinese authorities. This 5th major family of the Kokang region, which once had a private army of 2,000 and assets worth billions, controlled various grey industries and businesses, and Ming Xuechang, a former local leader, turned out to be just a pawn. When mercilessly abandoned, he couldn't face the crimes he had committed. Part 3. With time running out, surrendering is the only choice for the other 4 major families in Kokang. The situation in northern Myanmar is changing rapidly, and everything is happening so fast that it's shocking. Perhaps some friends are still trying to wrap their heads around how the world suddenly returned to normal. How did this hell on earth, rife with drugs and tele-fraud, where people were imprisoned in water jails, suddenly see the light of day? That arrogant fifth family, who dared to shoot at their compatriots with submachine guns and bury them alive, feared their crimes and committed suicide in less than a month. Not even in a movie like Wolf Warrior 3 Seconds would they dare write something like this. The latest news is that members of the four major families were controlled and recorded videos confessing and calling out to their families they must ensure the safety of Chinese compatriots and immediately release all tele-fraud members. After the call, the four major families apparently understood, and from the 13th onwards, the entire Laojie started to repatriate a large number of tele-fraud group employees, with buses overflowing with people. Behind all this, there must be untold stories, including inevitable political calculations among warlords. But for China, this is undoubtedly a significant victory in our fight against tele-fraud. The four major families that have not yet surrendered, upon seeing the final fate of Ming Xuechang, I wonder if we will wake up to even bigger surprises. Our channel will continue to follow up. It seems that the 3 years of the pandemic provided a crazy opportunity for tele-fraud in Northern Myanmar. It's not that they won't be punished, but their time hasn't come yet. Those Chinese tele-fraud leaders who are still deluded, having seen the fate of Ming Xuechang, will they be able to sleep tonight? Winning without a fight, a domestic arrest warrant, in just 4 days, resulted in everyone being captured, without deploying a single soldier. Such power, I wonder if it lives up to everyone's definition of wolf warrior. For the other four major tele-fraud families in northern Myanmar, time is running out. As stated in the video recorded by the captured members of the four families, those who have committed numerous evils must pay with blood. Surrendering to the Chinese police as soon as possible to seek leniency is their best way out. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and forward to more friends. Thank you very much.